In a galaxy where combat is an art and strength is revered, the Tarsian Academy forges warriors from countless stars. But when a human from a brutal Deathworld steps into their ranks, she doesn't just challenge their traditions, she shatters them. Without throwing a punch, meet Kalia, the strategist who rewrote the rules of war. The Galactic Alliance of Unified Species glittered with triumphs. Starships that wove through space-time, diplomatic accords requiring neural networks to parse, and academies sculpting the finest minds from across the cosmos. The Tarsian Academy of Stellar Warfare, perched on a world with a meticulously tuned 0.75 standard gravity units, stood as the pinnacle. For 4 centuries, it had trained warriors capable of outmaneuvering ion storms or disarming foes with a glance, its reputation polished in sleek recruitment holovids that promised glory among the stars. The Academy's lecture hall, a crescent of floating platforms hosting 42 students from 20 species, thrummed with anticipation. Professor Vrenix, a Xylorian with 6 prehensile tails shimmering like liquid silver, addressed the class, her voice a melodic chime. Today, we welcome a new student from Terra, a Class 3 Deathworld with 1 standard gravity unit, she announced, her tails weaving intricate patterns of excitement. The admissions board, after heated debate, waived our 0.9 gravity maximum due to her extraordinary qualifications. A hush fell over the hall. A Deathworlder in the Tarsian Academy? Eyes, optic arrays, and sensory fronds swiveled to the back row, where Kalia sat, a human female with dark hair bound in a tight braid. Her posture was still as a statue, her face an unreadable mask, exuding a calm that unnerved the empathic Quevani students. To them, her emotional void was like staring into a starless void, a presence that consumed rather than radiated. Vrenix's scales caught the hall's soft lighting, amplifying her authority. Kalia's presence offers a rare chance to study high-gravity adaptations in combat. But let us be clear, raw physicality, no matter how formidable, crumbles before refined technique. Murmurs rippled through the platforms. A few students exchanged glances, their bioluminescent markings flickering with unease. Kalia's lips twitched, a movement so subtle it was barely perceptible. Yet it prompted a nearby Felorian to nudge their hover seat a meter to the side, their delicate wings buzzing nervously. Silax, a bold Takari with 4 clawed arms and a hide that gleamed like polished obsidian, raised a limb, his voice sharp. "Professor Vrenix, isn't it reckless to train a Deathworlder here? I've heard their strength can shatter exoskeletons with a careless gesture." The class stilled, waiting for Kalia's reaction. Her eyes flicked to Silax, steady and unblinking, and his bioluminescent markings dimmed, a Takari sign of discomfort. Vrenix's tails curled in amusement, her scales shifting to a warmer hue. A valid concern, Silax, and precisely why today's lesson focuses on technique over brute force. Deathworlders may boast dense musculature and rapid reflexes, but without discipline, they are outmatched in true combat. Kalia raised a hand, her movement slow and deliberate, as if handling a volatile plasma core. The room tensed. "Yes, Kalia?" Vrenix asked, her tone carrying a faint edge of condescension, her tails pausing mid-weave. "Professor," Kalia said, her voice soft yet resonant, filling the hall more effectively than the Academy's advanced acoustic system. "I believe there's a misunderstanding about human combat philosophy." The silence deepened, broken only by the faint hum of hover seats adjusting for nervous students. Vrenix's scales flickered, a Xylorian smirk forming. "Every species claims their methods are superior, Kalia. It's natural. Perhaps a demonstration. We'll clarify. Rhinoc, would you assist?" Rhinoc, a towering Scorvian standing 3.2 meters tall, rose from his platform with eager grace. His obsidian armor plates gleamed under the lights, and his mandibles, capable of shearing Dura steel, clicked in anticipation. As the Academy's undefeated combat champion, his species, bioengineered on a 0.7 G world, dominated battlefields across the Alliance. "I'll be gentle," Rhinoc rumbled, his clicks carrying a tone his kind considered friendly, but which sounded like a predator sizing up prey. Kalia remained seated, her expression unchanged, her hands resting lightly on her desk. "I'd prefer to stay here," she said calmly. The class erupted in whispers. Was she afraid? Sensible, perhaps, but humiliating. Renok's plates flared, amplifying his imposing silhouette. "The Deathworlder fears a challenge," he taunted, his mandibles clicking faster. "I don't fear you," Kalia replied, her voice steady as a pulsar's beat. "I simply don't need to move to defeat you." The room exploded in gasps and murmurs. Two Quevani students sprayed calming pheromones to avoid fainting, their fronds trembling. Reinok's plates flushed a deep violet, a Scorvian sign of rage. "You think you can defeat me from your seat?" he demanded, his translator straining. To convey his fury, Kalia's eyes met his, and for the first time she smiled, a subtle curve of her lips that made a Felorian student flinch, and a Takari duck behind their platform. "I already have," she said. Vrenix, sensing a teaching opportunity, raised her tails for silence, their tips glowing faintly. "This is an excellent chance to demonstrate why technique surpasses physical advantages. Reinok, proceed with a standard Scorvian intimidation display." Renok dropped into a combat stance, his plates rattling in a frequency evolved to paralyze lesser species. The sound reverberated, a low, bone-shaking hum that caused 3 Felorians to collapse, their hover seats auto-evacuating them to the medbay. The remaining students gripped their platforms, their sensory organs wide with fear. Kalia sat unmoved, her smile unwavering, her eyes locked on Reinok. "Your primitive instincts don't recognize a superior threat," Reinok sneered, advancing toward her platform, his heavy steps shaking the floor. "Before you take another step," Kalia interrupted, her voice cutting through the rattling like a laser through fog, "you should know I've already neutralized you." Reinok froze mid-step, his mandibles twitching with indignation. "Impossible. You haven't moved." Kalia tilted her head slightly, her braid shifting. "Movement is overrated. When I entered this room, I analyzed its air filtration system. Standard Alliance design, predictable flow patterns. I noted you're standing directly under Vent 4C, optimal for particulate dispersal." She held up a small, empty vial between 2 fingers, its surface catching the light. "This contained a compound tailored to Scorvian biochemistry. It triggers temporary rigidity in your joint membranes. You're feeling it now, aren't you?" As if on cue, Renok's plates emitted a soft creak. His massive frame stiffened, his mandibles locking mid-click. Within seconds, the Academy's champion stood frozen, a towering statue of obsidian. The class stared, their collective breath held. "Don't worry," Kalia said, addressing the stunned students, her tone reassuring. "The effect is harmless and temporary. He'll regain movement in approximately 15 minutes, just as class ends." Vrenix's tails went limp, her scales dulling with shock. "When did you—" she stammered, her voice losing its melodic quality. 20 minutes ago, Kalia replied, standing at last, her movements graceful despite the Academy's gravity. "I released the compound when I sat down. Time to peek now. The vial I'm holding is empty, a distraction." She approached the paralyzed Reinok, her steps light, almost silent. Humans didn't survive Earth by being the strongest. We learned to anticipate threats, to plan victories before conflicts begin. The hall was silent, the air filtration systems hummed the only sound. Vrenix, recovering, sputtered, "That's not combat, that's chemical sabotage." Kalia tilted her head, her expression curious but unyielding. "Your academy teaches psychological intimidation as combat. As Renok just demonstrated, you employ tech-enhanced armor in your training. Why is tactical foresight any different?" Before Vrenix could respond, the hall's door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing Chancellor Chiron, a Velith whose pulsating frills signaled administrative urgency. Her compound eyes fixed on Kalia, then Reinok's frozen form. "Professor..." "Vrenix," Chiron said, her voice resonant with authority. The Academic Council requires your presence immediately. This incident necessitates discussion, and possibly a review of our admissions standards. As Vrenix hurried out, her tails trailing limply, Kalia turned to the class, her gaze sweeping over the diverse array of students. Clawed Takari, winged Felorians, fronded Quivani. "I'm here to learn, not dominate," she said, her voice steady but warm. "Humans don't have a monopoly on strategy. We just have a different starting point." She approached Renok, adjusting a small vent near his thorax with practiced precision. "This will ease his breathing until the effect wears off," she explained. The students filed out as the class ended, giving Kalia a wide berth, their expressions a mix of awe and trepidation. Alone with Reinach, she sighed softly, her calm facade softening. "I'm sorry about this," she said, though he couldn't respond. His compound eyes locked on her. "The galaxy underestimates humans, and that's gotten people killed. This was a harmless lesson to prevent a deadly mistake. Later, the paralytic will fade in 5 minutes. When it does, consider this. I didn't defeat you, your assumptions did." She gathered her belongings, pausing at the door. "By the way," she added, glancing back, "I'd love to train with you. Your grappling techniques have similarities to human martial arts. We could learn from each other." With that, she left, leaving Reinach to contemplate her words as the first stirrings of movement returned to his limbs. The story of Kalia's demonstration ignited the Tarsian Academy like a plasma flare. By the midday meal, the tale had reached even the insular quantum mechanics department, tucked away in their shielded labs. Students in the botany wing whispered of psychic spores that bent Reinach's will, while the engineering cohort swore she'd reprogrammed the air filtration system with a neural pulse. The diplomatic cadets, ever precise, described it as a recalibration of interspecies tactical dynamics through asymmetric environmental leverage. In the central dining hall, a sprawling chamber designed to accommodate methane breathers, crystal eaters, and everything in between, Kalia sat alone at a table calibrated to Earth's gravity. The usual cacophony of digestive sounds, clicks, slurps, and crystalline chimes faded to nervous murmurs around her. The air carried the faint tang of nutrient mists and the hum of adaptive seeding adjusting to varied physiologies. A shadow fell across her table, and Kalia looked up to see Viora, a Lyceran whose translucent wings hummed softly, casting prismatic reflections. Lycerans, resembling Earth's dragonflies but with a penchant for ethical debates, were rare in the Academy's combat tracks, preferring the nuances of xenocultural studies. "May I join you?" Viora asked, her antennae twitching with curiosity. Kalia gestured to the opposite seat, which reshaped instantly to cradle Viora's delicate frame. "I'm Viora, Xenocultural Ethics, 4th cycle," she said, her wings forming intricate greeting patterns. "You're the talk of the Academy after this morning?" Kalia took a bite of her nutrient slab, synthetic, calibrated for human biology, and utterly flavorless. "Genius or biohazard?" she asked, her tone dry. Viora's wings buzzed with laughter, a sound like chimes in a breeze. "Both, depending on the source. I'm more interested in the ethics of your approach." Kalia set down her slab, her dark eyes sharpening. "Go on." Viora's antennae curled thoughtfully. "You neutralized Reinach without causing pain or permanent harm. You even adjusted his respiratory vents to ensure his comfort. That suggests a combat philosophy rooted in restraint and compassion, qualities the Alliance rarely associates with Deathworlders." Kalia leaned back, her braid resting against her shoulder. "The Alliance fixates on our capacity for violence, not our reasons for it. Humans can be brutal. Our history proves it. But our greatest warriors are celebrated for why they fight and how they win. Restraint is strength, not weakness." Viora's wings stilled, her bioluminescence pulsing softly. "You mentioned an Earth text about winning without fighting. Is that a common human belief?" "It's from the art of war," Kalia said, her voice steady. "An ancient strategist, Sun Tzu, wrote that the supreme victory is to defeat an enemy's strategy before battle begins. Force is a last resort. Used only when planning fails. Fiora's antennae tilted, intrigued. The Alliance paints humans as battle-hungry berserkers, but you prioritize efficiency over destruction. Kalia's expression darkened slightly, her gaze drifting to the hall's bustling diversity. Claude Takari tearing into protein gels, Felorians sipping nutrient mists. The Alliance has mostly seen humans in defensive wars, protecting our colonies or allies. In those moments, efficiency takes precedence over elegance. But even then, unnecessary suffering is a failure of strategy, not a triumph. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the hall's entrance. Renok entered, his obsidian plates gleaming under the lights, surrounded by a cluster of Scorvian students offering tactical advice and sympathetic clicks. His mandibles moved rhythmically, signaling regained mobility. The hall fell silent as he approached Kalia's table, his heavy steps resonating through the floor. "Human," Reinok said, his mandibles clicking in a formal cadence, a Scorvian gesture of respect. "The Academic Council reviewed your actions this morning. They were unconventional but within Academy protocols." His compound eyes locked on hers, unblinking. "I've analyzed our encounter. You identified my vulnerabilities with precision, neutralized me without injury, and spared me lasting humiliation. By Scorvian standards, your victory was elegant." Kalia inclined her head, her expression respectful but unapologetic. "Thank you, Reinok. I admire your skill as a combatant." Reinok's plates shifted slightly, a sign of acknowledgement. "Former champion," he corrected. "The rankings updated at midday. You now hold first place." Murmurs rippled through the hall, a mix of shock and curiosity. Kalia blinked, the first sign of surprise she'd shown since arriving. "That wasn't my intention," she said, her voice genuine. "I was responding to a challenge, not seeking rank." Reinok's mandibles clicked firmly. "Intention is irrelevant. Results determine rank in the Academy, which is why I request to study your combat methodology. Your tactical innovation would enhance my training." Kalia's lips curved into a faint smile, her eyes brightening. "I'd be honored. Scorvian grappling techniques have parallels to human martial arts, particularly in joint manipulation. We could learn much from each other." Reinok hesitated, his plates shifting as if processing her ready agreement, then nodded. "Training Quadrant 2, after the evening chime. I'll be there." With a final click, he turned and left, his entourage trailing behind, their expressions a mix of confusion and intrigue. Viora's wings buzzed with amazement, casting fleeting rainbows across the table. "You just turned a potential rival into a training partner in one conversation. That's not how these situations resolve here." Kalia shrugged, resuming her meal, the nutrient slab as unappealing as ever. "Fighting should be the last resort, not the first response. Renok's intelligent enough to see we're more valuable as allies than adversaries." Fiora's antennae tilted, her bioluminescence pulsing thoughtfully. "You planned this outcome, didn't you? The choice of a harmless compound, the adjustment to his breathing. It was all designed to earn his respect rather than his enmity." Kalia chuckled, a low, warm sound that contrasted with her earlier stillness. "I wouldn't claim that much foresight, but I did try to leave the door open for a constructive relationship. Burning bridges rarely serves anyone." Viora's wings pulsed, a Lysaran sign of curiosity. "Why come to the Tarsian Academy? To prove a point about humans?" Kalia's gaze swept the dining hall, taking in the myriad species. Quevani weaving pheromone trails, Takari sharpening claws on durasteel tables. "Partially," she admitted. "The galaxy's a dangerous place, and misunderstandings about how species approach conflict spark wars. I'm here to learn how others fight, and maybe to show that humans are more than muscle and reflex." The Academy's announcement system crackled to life, its voice reverberating through the hall. "Attention all cadets and instructors. Effective immediately. The combat curriculum will include a new module on preemptive strategic resolution, with emphasis on environmental tactical integration. Attendance is mandatory for all combat specialization tracks. Kalia's expression remained neutral, but her eyes glinted with quiet satisfaction. Viora's wings buzzed with laughter. One demonstration and you've already changed the Academy's curriculum. Impressive. Kalia shook her head, taking another bite of her slab. Change was inevitable. The galaxy's evolving too quickly for rigid traditions. The Academy has to adapt, or it risks becoming obsolete. As the meal period continued, students cast furtive glances at Kalia, their whispers a mix of awe and apprehension. Viora leaned forward, her antennae curling. You're nothing like the Alliance's stereotypes of humans. They fear your strength, but it's your mind that's dangerous. Kalia's lips quirked upward. The mind's the only weapon that never runs, out of ammunition. 2 standard months later, the Tarsian Academy bore little resemblance to its former self. Kalia's influence had fractured its centuries-old hierarchies, replacing rigid drills with training methods drawn from worlds as diverse as gas giants, molten moons, and icy dwarf planets. In the primary demonstration arena, a vast dome where holographic environments shifted on command, Kalia stood beside Renok, now her co-instructor. His obsidian plates bore a new insignia, a symbol of their unprecedented partnership, gleaming under the arena's adaptive lighting. Around them, students from 19 species analyzed a simulated jungle battlefield, its holographic vines pulsing, with bioluminescent toxins and its air thick with simulated humidity. Kalia addressed the class, her voice carrying over the rustle of virtual foliage. Today, we explore environmental leverage, using your surroundings as a weapon regardless of your species' physical attributes. Rhinox's mandibles clicked, a Scorvian grin. A lesson I learned the hard way, courtesy of our human instructor. The class laughed, the story of Rhinox's defeat now a legend woven into the Academy's culture. Some versions claimed Kalia had rewired his nervous system with a glance. Others swore she'd summoned earth spirits to bind his plates. The truth, though simpler, was no less extraordinary. The students dispersed into the simulation, their approaches as varied as their physiologies. A Takari tested vine tensile strength with its claws, a Quivani mapped pheromone trails to detect hidden threats, and a Felorian analyzed the jungle's magnetic anomalies for potential tech disruptions. Rhinox watched, his compound eyes tracking the students' progress. Remarkable, he said, his click softer than usual. Even the pacifist Lissarans are adapting, identifying chemical compounds. Our sensors missed. Kalia nodded, her braid shifting as she scanned the arena. Every species has unique strengths. The key is helping them see beyond their evolutionary limits. Chancellor Kiran approached, her velith frills pulsating with vibrant colors. AC, sign of administrative excitement. Instructor Kalia, Instructor Rhinox, she said, her voice resonant. The Combat Evaluation Committee has reviewed performance metrics since your curriculum changes. Combat readiness scores have increased by 41% across all species, including traditionally non-combatant ones like the Lissarans and Quivani. Kalia's eyebrow rose, a subtle gesture that now commanded attention rather than fear. The diplomatic corps has taken notice, hasn't it? She asked. Kiran's frills flickered, a velith smile. Indeed, your methods suggest that even physically disadvantaged species can defend their interests strategically. It's a paradigm shift with implications beyond the battlefield. Kalia's tone remained even, but her eyes gleamed with purpose. The Alliance has long undervalued Deathworlders, seeing us as mere physical enforcers rather than strategic partners. That's a dangerous oversight. Kiran's frills stilled, a sign of contemplation. The Security Council agrees. They've requested your presence at their next assembly. Rhinox's plates shifted in surprise, a rare display of emotion from the stoic Scorvian. Kalia's eyes narrowed. Why? Kiran's voice lowered, her frills pulsing faintly. The shadow swarm in the Omicron cluster. Their decentralized tactics have proven resistant to our conventional military strategies. Kalia nodded thoughtfully, her mind already racing. They operate like a neural network, with no central command. Physical force is irrelevant against such a foe. Chiron's frills pulsed with impressed surprise. You've studied the swarm? Kalia's gaze hardened. Enough to know they embody the kind of threat I warned about on my first day. Adversaries, where brute strength is secondary to adaptive strategy. She glanced at Rhinoc, whose mandibles clicked in support. I'll address the council, she said, but on one condition. Representatives from all member species must attend, not just the traditional warrior castes. Chiron hesitated, her frills twitching. That's unprecedented. The full assembly includes over 200 species, many with minimal combat capabilities. Kalia's gaze was unyielding. The swarm doesn't distinguish between warriors and non-combatants. Neither should our response. Every species has something to contribute, whether it's the Lissaran's electromagnetic sensitivity or the Quevani's chemical manipulation. After a moment, Chiron's frills dipped in acquiescence. I'll convey your condition to the council, though some will resist consulting species from low-gravity worlds. Kalia's lips twitched, a hint of her earlier smile returning. Remind them what happened when Rhinoc underestimated me. Rhinoc's mandibles clicked with amusement, a sound now familiar to the students as a sign of camaraderie. You enjoy unsettling the establishment, he said. Kalia grinned, a rare flash of warmth. I enjoy challenging assumptions that limit potential. The galaxy's too dangerous for outdated thinking. As Chiron departed, the students returned, presenting their findings. Elissaran had identified a vine sap that could disrupt neural signals in certain species, while a Felorian noted magnetic anomalies that could jam enemy tech. A Quevani proposed using pheromone decoys to mislead opponents. Kalia praised their creativity, her laugh echoing through the arena, a sound that had evolved from terrifying to inspiring. Rhinoc leaned closer, his voice low. The Flovians are even experimenting with toxin dispersal, despite their pacifist traditions. Kalia nodded, her eyes scanning the students' collaborative efforts. Given the right incentives, any species can adapt. It's about showing them their own potential. The arena's holographic jungle shimmered, vines coiling in response to student inputs, a testament to the Academy's transformation. Chiron lingered at the arena's edge, her compound eyes fixed on Kalia. Her administrative mind calculated the implications. If one human could reshape the Academy in 2 months, what could humanity achieve on a galactic scale? The thought was both daunting and exhilarating, much like the Deathworlder herself. As the training session continued, students from wildly different worlds worked together, their unique perspectives blending into strategies no single species could devise alone. Kalia's influence extended beyond the arena. Instructors from other departments, tactical analysis, xenobiology, even cultural studies, began attending her sessions, drawn by rumors of her methods. The Academy's once rigid hierarchy softened, with cadets and professors alike sharing ideas across disciplines. Kalia, though focused on her students, couldn't ignore the weight of her impact. She hadn't come to lead a revolution, but the ripples of her first day were reshaping the institution, and perhaps the Alliance itself. The Security Council chamber, orbiting a pulsar in neutral space, was a marvel of engineering. A fractal spiral of seats for 210 species, its transparent walls revealing the pulsar's rhythmic flashes like a cosmic heartbeat. Kalia stood at the chamber's center, her simple academy uniform a stark contrast to the counselor's ornate regalia, robes of liquid metal, bioluminescent capes, and crystalline adornments. Rhinoc had remained at the academy, managing their joint classes, but his parting words echoed in her mind. Show them what you showed me. High Counselor Tivren, a myriad whose tentacles shifted colors with her mood, opened the session, her voice resonating through the chamber's acoustic amplifiers. We face an unprecedented threat, the Shadow Swarm in the Omicron cluster. Their decentralized tactics defy our hierarchical strategies. We seek your insight, human. Murmurs rippled through the spiral, some curious, others skeptical. A Takari counselor, his claws tapping impatiently, scoffed. A Deathworlder advising the council? Preposterous. Your kind are enforcers, not strategists. Kalia's voice cut through the chamber, calm but sharp as a vibroblade. The swarm succeeds because it integrates every unit's perspective, functioning like a hive mind with no central point of failure. Your hierarchies can't counter that unless you leverage every species' strengths. The Takari bristled, his bioluminescence flaring. You suggest we consult pacifists? Species from 0.3G worlds with no combat experience? Kalia nodded, unfazed. The Lyceran's sensitivity to electromagnetic fields can detect swarm movements before our sensors. The Quevani's pheromone manipulation can disrupt their coordination. Every species has a role, if you're willing to see it. A Velith counselor, her frills pulsing thoughtfully, leaned forward. Your academy demonstration, neutralizing a champion without moving, suggests unorthodox methods. Can they scale to a galactic threat? Kalia's eyes glinted, reflecting the pulsar's light. On Earth, humans survived by outthinking stronger predators, creatures with claws sharper than any Takari's, venom deadlier than a Flovian's. The swarm's strength is its adaptability, its ability to evolve mid-conflict. To defeat it, we must be more adaptable, combining the unique perspectives of every species here. The chamber buzzed with debate. Some counselors, like the Takari, resisted, their pride in traditional warfare clouding their judgment. Others, like the Velith and a curious Felorian, saw potential. The Felorian proposed a test, a simulated swarm attack on a neutral planet, with Kalia leading the strategy. She accepted, assigning roles based on species strengths. Lycerans monitored energy fluctuations to predict swarm movements. Takari analyzed structural weaknesses in the simulation's defenses. Quevani deployed chemical decoys to mislead the enemy, and even the low-gravity Thrallaxians mapped vibration patterns to detect hidden swarm units. The simulation unfolded on the chambers. Holographic display, a sprawling battlefield of asteroid fields and derelict stations. Kalia's strategy was a symphony of coordination. Lysaran sensors pinpointed swarm clusters, Quevani decoys drew them into traps, and Takari strikes exploited weaknesses with precision. The Thrallaxians' vibration mapping revealed a hidden swarm nest, allowing a preemptive strike. The simulation ended with the swarm repelled, minimal losses on the Alliance side, and the counselors staring in stunned silence. Tavren's tentacles glowed a vibrant gold, a myriad sign of approval. Your approach is compelling. We will adopt it for the Omicron campaign. Kalia nodded, but her expression grew serious, her voice carrying a quiet intensity. This is only the beginning. The galaxy's threats evolve faster than your traditions. Strength isn't just physical, or even tactical. It's the ability to adapt, to see value in every perspective. You must redefine what you consider powerful. Tavren's tentacles glowed a vibrant gold, a myriad sign of approval. Your approach is compelling. We will adopt it for the Omicron campaign. Kalia nodded, but her expression grew serious, her voice carrying a quiet intensity. This is only the beginning. The galaxy's threats evolve faster than your traditions. Strength isn't just physical or even tactical. It's the ability to adapt, to see value in every perspective. You must redefine what you consider powerful. The pulsar's flashes punctuated her words, casting fleeting shadows across the chamber. The counselors, even the skeptical Takari, sat in thoughtful silence, their assumptions challenged. Tavren's tentacles shifted to a contemplative blue. We will convene again to discuss implementation. Your presence has shifted our perspective. Kalia inclined her head, her braid catching the light. That's all I ask. As she left the chamber, counselors whispered among themselves, their voices a mix of awe and unease. Kalia's words lingered, a challenge to centuries of dogma. She hadn't just offered a strategy. She'd exposed the Alliance's blind spots, forcing them to confront their own limitations. The pulsar's rhythm seemed to echo her message: adapt or perish. Back at the academy, Kalia received a message from Rhinoc via encrypted comms. "The students are progressing," he reported, his clicks tinged with pride. "Your methods are spreading. Even the Flovians are proposing toxin-based strategies." Kalia smiled, her mind already turning to the next challenge. The swarm was a symptom of a larger truth. The galaxy was changing, and only those who embraced every perspective would survive its dangers. Back at the Tarsian Academy, the primary arena thrummed with activity. Kalia and Rhinoc stood at its center, overseeing a simulation of a swarm-infested space station, its holographic corridors crawling with virtual enemies. Students from 20 species collaborated, their tactics a vibrant tapestry of innovation. Takari rigged structural traps, Quivani deployed pheromone lures, and Lysarans tracked electromagnetic signatures to pinpoint swarm nodes. The Academy's once rigid curriculum now revolved around Kalia's principles: environmental leverage, preemptive strategy, and interspecies synergy. Rhinoc's mandibles clicked as he surveyed the students. "The Council's campaign in Omicron succeeded," he said, his plates gleaming under the arena's lights. "The swarm retreated thanks to your strategy." Kalia nodded, her braid shifting. "For now, they'll adapt, evolve new tactics. We have to stay ahead." A Lysarin student approached, presenting a novel tactic combining vibrational signals with chemical lures to disrupt swarm communication. Kalia's laugh echoed through the arena, a sound now cherished as a sign of approval. "Brilliant," she said. "Keep refining it." Chancellor Chiron arrived, her velith frills pulsating with vibrant energy. "Instructor Kalia," she said, her compound eyes fixed on her. "The Security Council has established a permanent advisory board, the Omni-Species Tactical Initiative, with you as a lead consultant." Kalia's eyebrow rose, a flicker of reluctance crossing her face. "I didn't come here to lead," she said, her voice firm but not harsh. Chiron's frills pulsed a velith smile. "You came to change things, and you have. Combat readiness is up 45% since your arrival, and non-combatant species are now integral to our strategies. The Council sees your methods as the future of galactic defense." Kalia's gaze softened, but her tone remained resolute. "The future isn't mine alone. It belongs to every species here working together." The arena buzzed as students continued their simulation, their collaboration seamless. A Felorian adjusted a magnetic disruptor, while a Thrillaxian mapped vibration patterns to detect hidden threats. Rhinoc's mandibles clicked with amusement. "You've turned pacifists into tacticians." Kalia smiled, her eyes scanning the high, diverse teams. They were always capable. They just needed a reason to see it. Chiron's frills pulsed thoughtfully. "The diplomatic corps is exploring your methods for conflict resolution beyond warfare. Your emphasis on preemptive strategy could prevent disputes before they escalate." Kalia nodded, her expression serious. "That's the goal. Wars start from misunderstandings, misjudging strengths, intentions, or values. Places like this, Academy, where species meet, are where we learn to avoid those mistakes." As the session ended, students gathered around Kalia and Rhinoc, sharing ideas and refining tactics. The arena, once a stage for rigid duels, now hummed with creativity, a microcosm of what the Alliance could become. Kalia's legacy was no longer just her first day's demonstration. It was the students who carried her philosophy forward, blending their unique perspectives into a new paradigm of combat and cooperation. Outside the arena, Chiron lingered, her frills pulsing softly. She watched Kalia, a quiet figure who had arrived as an outsider and become a catalyst for change. The Alliance was shifting, integrating non-combatant species into strategic roles, redefining defense not as strength, but as understanding. Kalia, now a reluctant legend, remained focused on her students, her presence a reminder that true power lay in the mind's ability to adapt, to see potential where others saw limits. The Academy's timekeeper chimed, signaling the end of the day. As students dispersed, Kalia and Rhinoc exchanged a glance, their partnership a symbol of what was possible when assumptions were challenged. "The galaxy's watching," Rhinoc said, his clicks soft. Kalia nodded, her smile faint but resolute. "Good. Let them learn. Call to support. If Kalia's journey inspired you, support the channel. Subscribe, share, and join us for more tales of galactic strategy and human ingenuity. Your support keeps these stories alive.